What's up, everybody? I am the Architect 04,
And I'm Lum.
and you're riding shotgun with the Zooka Bros.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. It's gonna be podcast number 5 or 6, I believe, maybe 7 or 8. I can't remember.
What?
But
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
at this point, I mean, hey, we're in it. Today we're gonna be talking about the new Nintendo system that was announced. Possibly, I looked into it a little bit. Have you looked into it at all?
I have not. I'm curious to find out exactly what it is that's is speculating, being speculated about right now as far as the new Nintendo system, and I'm just gonna do a little speculating on my own. What I think. I don't know a whole lot about it. Maybe I can fumble my way through this and come up with something that sounds halfway decent.
Well, I looked it up. So there was an article released a couple days ago, and they were talking about a Nintendo Switch Pro. That's what they've been calling it. Okay. We don't know whether it's in development or not, but the speculation has us at a point where we feel like we're gonna get a new system for Nintendo.
Okay.
We don't know when it's going to be, but there's a lot of talk Nintendo being, and we talked about this before, but talking to their game developers and putting games in 4K and having things being developed in a higher setting that the Switch right now doesn't offer.
Sure.
Right. I guess the biggest, and the reason why people don't actually think it's going to happen, the biggest reason is people are like, well, the Switch is doing numbers right now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the Switch from its release has seen wild success in all reality, and continues to, even to this day.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, and we touched on this in one of our previous episodes, but it's the Switch's versatility.
Right.
Because you can, as long as you don't have the Switch Lite, you can dock it to a TV and play it just like any other console seamlessly.
Right. Yep.
I mean, I haven't had any issues with my Switch.
Never. Yeah,
whether in handheld mode versus on the dock, with a Pro controller. And that's another thing, is they offer the Pro controller added addition, the peripheral.
If you want a controller, if you need a controller, you don't like the Joy-Cons, you got it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and those Pro controllers feel just like any other full console controller.
And you're paying for it too. It's about
they're like
about 50, 60
bucks.
Right.
But that's the going rate of any other controller for any other system if you wanted to buy extras for whatever reason. So
right.
I mean,
and you can for like the less rumbled controllers, I feel like it's a little like, I think I bought a Mario that doesn't have rumble in it for like $20-$30. Okay. But if you want like the Pro controller,
the Nintendo branded Pro controller,
it's which
is the one I got, and I got it as a gift. Right. But I did look them up, and they were probably about $50-$60. Yeah. I would imagine that some of the aftermarket third party companies probably make some that are a little less expensive as well.
Probably
Mad Cats and some of these other ones that have been around for ages and ages. But I have had no negative experiences in all reality with my Switch. I love it. I guess if I had any one gripe on the current system right now with Nintendo, it probably would be it's not even really that big of a deal, but the battery life. I mean, it eats, if you have it in handheld mode, it eats battery pretty quickly.
Right.
I mean, you might get an hour or a couple hours of playtime. I would say 2, 3 maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on what game you're running at the time. I know. Breath of the Wild eats batteries. Eats the battery like crazy. The new Pokemon Sword. I have Sword myself. I don't have Shield, but Pokemon Sword doesn't do quite as bad. It doesn't eat battery as fast, in my opinion, as Breath of the Wild. But all in all, it's a great system. From what I've had, and I've had mine for a little over a year now.
Well, what I'm, them coming out with the Switch back then and how much success it's been doing, that's the whole reason people are speculating, well, they really don't need to put out a new console. And there's a history with these consoles and their releases. Like, when do I release my next big thing? If my console's doing good, do I release it and do just because the releases? So I feel like there was a big speculation, but if we look back at the 3DS timeline, specifically the 3DS,
For the 3DS, okay.
right? The extra large variant arrived around 18 months after the original was produced.
Okay.
And the new 3DS launched less than 4 years after that original. All right? So with the Switch launching off in March 2017, the Switch Lite arrived 18 months later, right?
Okay.
Following
The
this
Switch
trend, exactly. Following this trend, we
Yeah, but
can, you know what I'm saying? We can see that maybe there is a new console coming.
Maybe if I had to guess personally, I feel like because that's their I feel like Nintendo's handheld schedule was a little bit different than their full console schedule because if you think about back when from the GameCube, right? From GameCube after with GameCube, there was I want to say it was a great hold on one second.
No, you're good.
Okay, so GameCube was launched November 5th, 2001. Okay, the next system that came after GameCube was the Wii.
Right.
And that came out November 19th, 2006, 5 years later.
And the Wii didn't do as good as people thought it was going to.
Well, it did really well at its initial launch, but then people quickly realized that the novelty of the Wii really wore off quickly. I mean, not to mention, like I still have mine, and the Wii was
Oh yeah.
it was a good console, but I think I played it for a couple weeks.
Right.
There was really nothing. There was nothing
That
good that kept me
Right.
on the system. Unfortunately, I mean, obviously there was. I did play Super Mario something. There was one of the Super Marios that came out that I did play a bit of, but I played it in a standard format where I used the Wii remote and the nunchuck together in tandem as a regular controller.
Yep.
Right, because they didn't have. I think you could have bought an extra controller that was like a standard controller for the Wii.
Yep.
But I just used what I had, which is a nunchuck and the remote to play Mario. And the Mario was good because I remember playing Super Mario Sunshine for GameCube, and that was a fun one. I really enjoyed Mario Sunshine. But then it was. God, I can't remember the name of that Mario game that came out on Wii.
Right.
It was Yoshi's Revenge, maybe? No, that wasn't it.
Yoshi's Island?
No, it wasn't Yoshi's Island.
That was for Switch.
Anywho.
Right.
Not that it matters. But so 2006 was the release of the Wii. And then in 2012, 6 years after the Wii's release, was the Wii U.
Right.
Which was another failed attempt, in my opinion. They brought another novelty to it was just a novel.
They brought
it was
some
another
good games though.
Yeah, good games.
Breath of the Wild was one of them.
Correct. Breath of the Wild was they did release that title for the Wii U.
Right.
And the Wii U controller, I guess this was their first stab at a handheld console, and it didn't do as well. But the Wii U definitely paved the way for the Switch.
Yeah,
100%, and I believe that wholeheartedly.
I agree with
if you look
handheld.
at it, right.
Yep.
So the controller itself was big and it was handheld, but you could switch.
Yeah.
Which was part of the I guess part of the if there was
the
any
idea
allure of having a Wii U was that you could be playing on the handheld
on your TV or
in the handheld, right?
Exactly.
So you could still play the game and somebody else could watch TV on the TV and you were hogging it all, but you could still play your console games, right? You don't have to buy a 3DS and then they don't offer the game in 3DS. It's only on the Wii U or only on the Wii, and then now I can't play it because I don't have it, and I gotta go buy another TV and spend hundreds of dollars, and and that was I guess that was one thing that Nintendo did right with both the Wii U and the Switch is they saw a problem. Somebody saw a problem and decided that they were going to take it upon themselves to solve it. They saw the problem, and we're gonna resolve this. We're gonna make this a non-issue for those of our fans that want to play and can't because somebody else is using the TV and they don't have a second second one, then by gosh, we're gonna give them a way to do it, and they did. So we're talking timeline though,
Right?
We're getting a little off date here.
Yeah.
So November 18th, 2012,
Right.
6 years after the launch of the Wii to the Wii U, and then from the Wii U we got
Our Switch.
the Switch, which was in March 3rd
2017.
of 2017, which at this point is 4 years. So from 2012 to 2017 was 4 years. No, 5 years. I'm sorry. So just given from
And that's just base consoles. We're not talking, because they released a 3DS, like I was saying, before 18 months before that Switch.
right, but
release.
there from the GameCube to the Switch.
No, of course.
The Switch was the first main console.
But is it a main console? That's what people argue. It can be a main console, but it can also be a handheld. It is the Switch, you know what I mean?
Right, but they don't offer the Wii unless you have a Wii U. They offer no other gaming console. Right. They don't. This is the only console game that they offer that Nintendo now offers, which replaced the Wii U,
Right.
and the 3DS because the 3DS has been discontinued. They
Right.
don't make it anymore.
Because it can be a console, right? As far as the Switch goes. But no. I mean, I know what you're saying. I know what you're like.
What I'm saying is they will only release games for this and not two separate systems, handheld
right.
and then a
Exactly.
console. So this is
It's
their
the
console.
Switch, right.
The Switch is their console. Well, yes, it can be mobile and handheld.
Yeah.
Which is the revolutionary part of
Exactly.
this, right? Because all of the other big manufacturers, well, with the exception of Microsoft, but Sony had the PS Vita. Who else? I know Sega. Sega, the Sega handheld back in the day,
Back in the
right?
day,
When
yeah,
there was
yeah.
because handheld was a thing. I mean, the Game Boys were
But Nintendo did have their full hand in that handheld.
They started-
exactly.
they were
They've
the pioneers
been
there.
Yeah, they've been the number one top dogs in that industry.
Of course.
Which is definitely why I feel like they have produced one of the best systems and consoles to ever come, which is the handheld console. It is the Switch. The Switch is a console and a handheld device. So
well, and I think that's where the Switch Lite comes in, is for those people that don't really care to play it that just want the mobility of a handheld.
Right.
That's what you get with
it
the
allows you
Switch
to play
Lite.
those games
On the go,
On the go,
anywhere, right?
anywhere,
Without having to, it's a little bit lighter. It's not as heavy. You don't have the docking capabilities, but the Switch itself,
Right.
And the as far as the full Switch, but you still get all the playability of all the
Right.
games just in a smaller screen on a
Right.
handheld. So
And since 2017, we saw the Switch Lite, but other than that, there hasn't been any console release, any really talks of it, aside from us finding out that Nintendo is talking to their developers and porting games to 4K. Also, Nintendo has stated publicly in the past that they're not planning to release any new Switch model or console in the near future, anytime soon. That's what they say. So,
well, if we're following the timelines here, and even the Switch Lite was 2 years after the original release of the original Switch, right? So if we're following some sort of a basic trend of their release dates on main console,
Right.
we're looking at a new Nintendo system probably in another 3 years.
right.
So we've got some time because it was released, the original Switch was released in 2017.
Right.
It's been 4, so the end of
about
the
4 years.
March,
Well,
actually
March.
coming in March, it'll be 4 years. So maybe we could get another system in a year, 2 at the most.
Right.
So a couple
That's what I'm
years.
thinking, man.
But they did take their time on releasing the Switch Lite, which may be able to give them an extra couple years.
And I mean, although the Switch Lite was a good, I feel like filler, it didn't do as well as the Switch did. A lot of
No.
Switch Lites got sent back due to drift on the controllers, on your joysticks, on your Joy-Cons, and because it's a Switch Lite, you're not able to just switch out your Joy-Cons, buy new Joy-Cons. You gotta buy a whole new system.
Right.
So it definitely, I feel like, for those buyers, maybe put them in a place where they're like, iffy on the Nintendo system.
I mean, I get that, but at the same time, you're paying $100 less
For sure.
for a Switch Lite than you would for a full Nintendo Switch.
Right.
So in all
I don't.
reality,
Yeah. No, and I get that, but at the same time, do you think you're paying for? You know what I'm saying? You think you're paying for a good system, regardless if it's. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You're not expecting there to be any bugs like that, especially within the system and not within games.
well, and obviously, if and I'm sure Nintendo has a warranty policy that if within the first year, if
Right.
craftsmanship or something happens, you send it in, they give you a new one or whatever the case. Spending $200 on a Switch Lite and having to send it back and get a new one, I wouldn't be as long as they're accommodating and they give me what Nintendo gives me what what I paid for,
Right.
and replaces it, by all means. I have no issues with that.
Right.
But once the warranty's up and it goes bad, what can you do? I mean, it is what it is. If you wanted something better or you wanted that versatility of say, hey, if something goes bad, I'd spend the extra $100 and get a regular Switch.
Yeah, get a regular.
Yeah, and you can find them now, so they're not as scarce as they used to be.
But they're still selling out.
They're still selling for sure,
course.
but they're not selling out as fast as they were back in 2 years ago.
I don't know. I think you can still find scalpers out there that are scalping these systems. Just because, you know what I mean? You buy them at the price and scalp it, and you can sell it for more because you know what I'm saying. So I feel like Nintendo still is having that issue with scalpers, and you're able to find a system a lot more easier now, but it's still tough. It's very like I've talked to friends who don't have Switches, and it's still tough to get a Switch. That being said, I think that it's clear, even through all the rumors and everything, there's a huge appetite for a big Nintendo refresh. People want to see a new system.
Yeah.
There's a huge there's a big following that wants to see something new. And when asked, a lot of people really say they want to upgrade on the CPU because that's what is going to boost the 4K. It's going to bring the system up.
Sure.
So
yeah, but at the same time, I do like the fact that Nintendo does seem to take a walk before you run approach to their technology. They don't go jump in headlong with the latest and greatest and try and push their systems to the limits. They take their time, they engineer it so that they have as little issue as possible with with what they know is reliable hardware, and to make sure that their units are going to last until the new system comes out. But you have these other the other big manufacturers, Sony and Microsoft, are pushing these units. They're just trying to get as many out as they can. They're trying to look at our stats. We're pushing our CPUs, we're pushing the GPUs, we're playing 8K, you can stream in this and do all this stuff.
Well, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that those consoles are just gimmicks?
I'm not saying they're gimmicks, but I'm not saying they're gimmicks, but what I'm saying is that Nintendo doesn't take that same approach of pack it full of stats.
Of course, they don't need to.
And push.
Never been.
And because they're going to push the units regardless.
Of course.
They're going to sell We've
already talked about this. Nintendo has their own market, their own niche, right? So in order to make money, all they have to do is put out a new system.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is I guess what I'm getting at is that Nintendo doesn't need to put out a new system every 3 or 4 years. They don't need the Slims, and they don't need these in between filler systems.
For sure. It's just,
which is why they don't do it.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. There's nearly 20,000+ votes in polls where people were asked, like, what would you like to see in a new Nintendo system? And one of them was an upgraded CPU.
Well, I mean, if somebody just asked me the question, hey, if you could have anything out of a new Nintendo system, what would it be? And I would say, sure, better graphics.
We want to upgrade. Obviously. We don't want the same thing every year. Although, yes, we're gonna buy it. Do we? You know what I'm saying?
For me, personally, this is my opinion on it.
Boomer.
Is the Switch is enough for what I need it to be, and I love it, and I'm enjoying it. No, I understand.
Yeah, we're talking about a new Nintendo console.
I'm just saying that I can wait
for sure.
If you were to ask me, it's like, I don't need a new Nintendo system right now. I'm not yearning for this new fresh Nintendo to give me what the Switch is. The Switch is amazing. It's giving me what I it's fulfilling my need and fulfills its role perfectly.
Agreed.
would I like to see it happen? Absolutely, in its own time. I don't want to see Nintendo rush it. I don't want to see them, fall into those pitfalls, right? Of trying to rush something out to make, and they haven't done it.
Obviously, and I don't think they will.
Their track record shows that, and they're not going to, because they don't need to.
No.
And good on them, because if people are wanting them, if they're wanting more from them, then that means they're doing something right.
Oh, yeah.
And Nintendo across the board has never been a company they like to give their fan base what they want.
Right.
But they also are willing to make them wait for it so that it's perfect.
Right.
So that it meets their vision. And that's very respectable in my eyes, to be honest.
I agree with that. Now, with that new Nintendo system in mind, right? Mm-hmm. Say we were to get a new system.
Sure.
What do you think? What would you like it to be called? Like Nintendo Switch Pro? They got a couple different names that they've already kind of come up with that people on the internet have done. Mm-hmm. So it's a Switch Pro, the Switch Up, the Nintendo Switch Up, or the Switch On, the Switch In, like. I mean, I feel like all these names are kind of like.
Well, I guess it really just depends on what they're doing to it. What is it going to be?
System? Is it going to be its own system?
Are they going to have some sort of new that folds open and becomes bigger?
Is it a sphere? The game sphere? I know.
Is it just a headset? Is it VR?
We talked about Wi-Fi gaming, so
that's cloud-based stuff. I mean, I think I would love to see Nintendo move into the VR realm. I think that would be super interesting.
Okay.
If that was the next Nintendo console, I would be super stoked to see a Nintendo VR system. I think they would be one of the few to get us as close to like SAR Nerve Gear as anybody else.
I feel like there is a lot of companies that already work on that, and we can talk about that in another podcast. But
no, for sure.
There's quite a few pieces of gear out there that VR supports VR, and one of them are like chest plate, headgear, arm, whole body, full body suit almost, pretty much. That
haptic stuff,
haptic, for sure. And that's been in development for years now. So I would love to see where that is nowadays.
Funny enough, one of the guys that I follow on YouTube, Smarter Every Day is the channel.
Right.
He had made a trip to, was it him? I believe it was. Mm-hmm. It may have been a different channel, but one of them anyways, had gone to a developer studio where these guys were developing a haptic glove. It was just a glove.
Okay.
And they were using these little tiny air bladders inside the glove and connected to a VR headset, and they had developed this little world that you can touch and use the glove and touch and pick stuff up and touch things and the haptic feedback as wearing the glove from what I got from the video, obviously, was that it was so close to real that there was a point where you don't even realize you're wearing a glove anymore. You're just in this virtual world touching and moving things and doing stuff. Right. And he said it was very easy to lose that boundary of what's what. I mean, obviously you're looking at you can clearly obviously tell that it's a computer generated world. It's it wasn't like hyper realistic or anything.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just that technology. It is out there and it's being developed, and it's just going to be a matter of time until they perfect it and they bring it to market, and then
big game companies are using it. And
for sure,
I'm totally there with you, and I think that's I would love to see that come from Nintendo, being such a small niche studio. I feel like, and it's not small in that aspect of game studios, but it's small within its own niche. Like, you know what I mean? There's not another console out there competing for it with it. You know what I mean? It's Nintendo, or it's Xbox and PlayStation, and then you got Nintendo.
Yeah, but Nintendo's the oldest survived from the original
for sure
console,
right?
Gaming.
You know what I would love to see?
The birth of gaming. They're the originals.
I would love to see a console from Atari.
Are they even around anymore?
I don't know. That's another thing. I haven't looked it up. But you know what? That would be insane.
Yeah, I mean, they've had, 60 years to develop it? So
hey,
I feel like it'd be amazing.
That would be insane to me. Atari coming out with an actual handheld or home console that competed. Like, come on now. Come on.
Yeah, that would be wild.
That would be insane.
That would literally blow my mind if that ever happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Or I'm not sure if you remember this one or not, but 3DO. Do you remember those?
No. What?
Yeah.
3DO.
3DO was a gaming console. It was one of the first that used a compact disc versus the hard cartridge that the other systems used.
Really? Mm-hmm. I'll have to look into that some more. Yeah, go ahead.
Pull it up.
We're almost out of time here, folks.
Okay, so 3DO. This is what it looked like. It was made by Panasonic.
Oh yeah. I've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was.
I've definitely seen that console before.
This was Panasonic.
I thought that was a Sega console. Back in the day.
No, this one specifically, the 3DO. Obviously, I want to say that Sega did have one, but the 3DO was The 3DO was Panasonic's run at a gaming console.
Right.
Obviously now. That I'm looking at it. But
interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Super nostalgic. Let me see if I can find out when they were released. Okay, so the 3DO was released in October 1993.
1993.
93 in North America. And that was, let's see,
93, a year before SpongeBob dropped. Interesting.
So the original PlayStation itself was released in 94.
Right.
And that was what most people feel. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was the Sega Saturn was the first disc. 94. Yeah, so
November 94. Yeah.
Yep. So Panasonic did release theirs before the Sega Saturn, the 3DO.
Yeah.
And then Sega had the Sega CD in 92.
Interesting.
So Sega CD, I guess if you
was the first.
Was the first. Sega was the first to come out with a compact disc. 3DO right behind them. Right on their heels.
Yeah, I know. A couple years after. And that's very interesting to think about because since 1992, it's been almost it's been about 10
no, almost 30 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say 30.
Almost 30 years.
Almost.
Because we're 2021.
Coming next year. Yeah,
next year will be 30 years. So we're
29
years.
That's insane, dude. From a CD console, from the first CD console to ever drop to what we're doing now, which is digital plus CD. Crazy how consoles are just evolving into this cybernetic space that we've kind of been talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What do you got there?
That's the original NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. The first Nintendo console was released in 1983.
That's insane, dude. From where we've been to where we are now, things are just getting so cyber.
Yeah. I mean, it's 30, what is that, 37, 38
nothing.
Years?
It's crazy. People you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're still living. People who have been born are, 30 years old from that time. It's crazy. Sure. Man, it's just very interesting to me. And I feel like the future of gaming has so much to hold and has so much to give. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like, so I remember growing up playing NES and Super NES and some of these the older and oldest consoles.
Right.
And it's funny because I look at some of the games and the systems now, and there are moments where I'm like, where does it go from here? Like, you know what I mean? Because I've seen from the beginnings of the 16-bit games of NES and through all the way through now to the most recent releases of Cyberpunk and Valhalla and some of these crazy games. I recently just started playing Elite Dangerous.
Oh, nice.
Which I know is a bit of an older game, but seems pretty interesting.
Good, yeah.
Pretty interesting.
If you're playing for yourself, it's a great game.
Sure. So I'm excited to see what that holds. I'm as you know, I'm a big fan of No Man's Sky.
Yes.
Definitely a big fan of No Man's Sky. So I like the space exploration games.
Right.
A lot of fun. So
Nice.
yeah,
Cool.
that's what's going on in my gaming world right now. Aside from trying to finish Breath of the Wild myself and get through the DLC of Pokemon Sword.
Which I still need to play through.
Yeah, it's a great game. You know what? You should bring it over one day.
Yeah.
We'll do some raids, some raid battles or something.
I would love to.
Catch some Dynamax Pokemon.
Awesome.
Demons.
Well, I think we're just about up on our time now.
Yeah.
If you want to sign us out.
Well, you know what, guys? Thanks for coming along for the ride.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate all the time you've spent hanging out with us. If you like the content and you want to hear more and you want to support us in the channel, give us a like, subscribe, make a comment, tell us
Please.
you hate us. Tell us what we're doing wrong.
Please.
Tell us what we're doing wrong. We need to know. Yeah. I mean, if you guys can't, give us some constructive criticism. It doesn't even have to be constructive. Anything. Just straight up criticism, if anything. Help us out. But we appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us, and we're gonna be taking the rest of the night off.
Yes, sir. We love you guys. We'll catch you in the next video.
Yes.
Peace.
See ya.